Good evening to all. It's the Emotional Healthy Church. Pastor Cornelius Hill, pastor of the Ephesian Primitive Baptist Church, 1506 22nd Avenue, North Nashville, Tennessee, 37208. We're grateful that you have joined us for another edition of Bible Book Study. I don't know what happened. I was trying to upload some things, but apparently it's not working. Don't know what's going on with the internet. And that's how technology does us. But I'm grateful tonight for those who have joined me in this particular space for another edition of Bible Book Study. You will need your text, y'all. Get this book. You will need your Bible. You will need your iPad, phone, whatever you got to help you take lots and lots of notes. It's the Emotional Healthy Church Bible Book Study here at the Ephesian Primitive Baptist Church. Stay tuned. You're about to be blessed. Evening to all. Welcome to the Ephesian Bible Book Study again. Like I said, I thought I had some things Donna uploaded, but of course, I guess happenstance and providence would have me to go live, and I'm grateful for that as well, just to give you some consistency, because we want to stay consistent in this space and framework. Chapter number 10. Somebody put chapter 10 in the comments. Chapter 10. What is chapter 10 about? What does chapter 10 begin? Page 180. 180, chapter number 10. We need to get into this sixth principle. The sixth principle is make incarnation your model for loving well. Chapter 10, making incarnation your model for loving well. How do we do that as humans? Remember, our problem is not Christians or being Christian. Our problem is we're human. Paul said, I find another law working within my members, warring against the law of my mind, bringing me into captivity. So how do we make loving well our sole purpose and initiative? And take this note down. Thank you, Donna. It says this: in emotional healthy churches, people intentionally follow the model of Jesus. They focus on loving well. They focus on loving well. They know this: spiritual maturity is not solely tied to recognition, numbers, spiritual gift, and biblical knowledge. They want to love well. How do I learn to love well? Put that in the chat, y'all. How do we learn to love well? What is our model of loving? How do we do that as humans? Christians don't have a problem loving. They shouldn't, but humans. Because Jesus gave Peter the mandate: if you love me, feed my sheep. So love is something that we as the body of baptized believers live by. And how do we make the incarnation model for loving well? How do we do that? How do we do that? I'm glad you asked tonight. How do we love well? Donna, do you know how we love well? Do you? Does anybody want to tell us how we love well? Here we go. Let's get into this particular text. I want to show you some of your instructional strategies. Of course, that word is Jesus. They remove that. We're going to do something with that. We're going to really do something with this particular icebreaker after we read our passage. That's the letter from the Birmingham jail, giving you instructional strategies all the way through. Let me do it this way. That's the letter from the Birmingham jail that Dr. Martin Luther King wrote in 1963. Next, we have a quote about incarnation. Next, we have incarnation to study the word in its framework and its context. Next, we have the biblical context, that we pull from. We have an outline. We have our walk away exit ticket. There you go. Quote, exit ticket, outline, biblical text, word study, quote from the book, twofold activity, double entry, and helps us with, of course, what we would consider, the acrostic, which gives us the alliterative tools and ingenuity so that when it's time for us to present, at least we have a framework for presentation that we pull from a text. Yes, Jesus, we say Jesus, but why do we say Jesus? We say Jesus based upon what was had or what is taking place in the lessons that we are learning from the text. So page 180, get your book out. Let's look at this passage that Dr. King had written as it relates to the letter from the Birmingham jail. I guess it's key for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say wait. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch our mothers and our fathers at will and drown our sisters and our brothers at whim. When we have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, brutalize, and even kill your black brothers and sisters with impunity. When you see the vast majority of 20 million Negro brethren smothering in airtight cage of poverty. And it goes on and on. I mean, he really lays it out plain about several of the injustice that is being seen in the day in which he wrote the letter. So with that being said, we go back to the activity, taking the information, taking the page 180, go back to the activity. And with this particular activity, of course, we go back. Jesus, what is Dr. King looking for? He's looking for justice. What is Dr. King looking for when he writes this letter? He's showing the world the judgment of its own ill vices. He's looking for justice. He's looking for judgment. What is he looking for? He's looking for joy. So when we read the Birmingham letter, it will bring you to a sense where you will say, Jesus. And remember, we're not taking his name in vain. When great things happen, we say Jesus. When startling things happen, we say Jesus. When vile things happen, we say Jesus. So when we think of the letter J, we think of justice, judgment, and joy. When we see the letter E, and I pray you were writing these things down, we see that Dr. King has evaluated a situation. He's very evaluative. He's evaluative. He evaluates the situation. He wants individuals to know what is happening, what has happened, and what needs to happen. But he also educates us about the do's and the don'ts, the have and the have-nots. It makes us say Jesus when we read this particular letter from the Birmingham jail. He's stern. He has structure. His tone is strict. When we come to the letter S, go through it. Pick out words. Do your one-word summary, an instructional strategy that you and I have both learned to do. He wants uniformity across the board. He sees his daughter cry while she's not welcome or invited to the theme park. He sees that. Then he wants the social order to come to some type of constraint. That's what makes us say Jesus in this particular passage. I say Jesus. You say Jesus. What words have you formulated? What words have you come up with when you begin to talk about one-word summaries from the Birmingham jail. And as we go to the second slide, and I'll do this. Donna, let me hide your thought. And I can hide the rest of it, but this is where you get to fill in your thoughts and what you would say. I guess it's key for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait, what does that mean? What is being communicated to you about the stinging darts of segregation? Those stinging darts. What is being communicated to you, ma'am and sir? What would you write? Not the micro theme. We know what the theme of it is, but how would you rewrite that passage? What words, what illustrations would you use when you look at stinging darts? You know, you could change that to what? What would you change that to exactly? What would you change that to? You don't have to say stinging darts. What would you change stinging darts to? Vicious mobs. Instead of vicious mobs, what would you say? Come up with your own flowery, eulogistic speech to help communicate what you understand about that passage. So that's our double entry. Remember, we provide instructional strategies in this particular space so that you and I can both learn how to capitalize on a literacy-driven activity. So number one, what have you done? You've read. Number two, you've done your acrostic. Number three, you are doing now your double entry. These are the things that make learning stick and give you a valuable handle on what it is to learn. Incarnation is a difficult lesson for anyone to learn. And so let me change this. And you have to learn that. You literally have to learn to love things. You literally have to learn to do right. You literally have to learn to say thank you. You literally have to learn to say no thank you. You literally have to learn to say yes ma'am. You literally have to learn to say no ma'am. That's a learned behavior. Just like you have to learn to be racist and evil. You have to learn to be good. These are things that are learned. And you and I learn these things. These are the incarnational model as we are learning to grow emotionally. And our emotional health is maturing. So we are learning those things. So let's get back. The incarnation model is very difficult for anyone to learn. Yes. Hello, Brandy, all the way from Texas. Think about that, Brandy. The incarnational model. I'm glad you're with us. Let's go to the next slide. Incarnation. What does incarnation mean to you? When we talk about a person who embodies in the life of a deity, spirit, abstract quality, that's incarnation. One of series of life that separates a person when he spends time on earth. Synonyms, embodiment, personification, epitome. That's incarnation. When you use it in the text, because we're learning how to use it in the text, the incarnation of the model that connects with Christianity and other religious sects. And then we have a picture. I need to see what incarnation looks like. And I'm grateful today that I see what incarnation looks like. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Moving on to the next slide. Any questions? Let me pause there. Any questions or comments? Any questions on incarnation? Any question on the activities? Any question on the letter from the Birmingham jail? Any questions on, what we're discussing, how we're trying to come? Oh, good question, sir. What are the tangible fruits we reap from love as a healthy church? Well, because you and I come from the hermeneutic of primitive Baptists, one of the tangible fruits that we reap from love as a healthy church, when conflict arises, one of the things we are able to do like Jesus is lay aside our garment That's a fruit. Pour water into a basin and begin to serve. And that's not literal, y'all. That can be, but that does not have to be literal. Literal. One of the tangible fruits we learn as a healthy church and a loving church is that we learn how to serve one another. We serve others beyond it feeling good to us. We learn tangibly how to serve beyond our limits in the space of our emotional limit. That's one of the tangible fruits we reap as a healthy church. Also, as a healthy church, and let me make my screen bigger. Also, as a healthy church, one of the things we learn to do is we learn how to grieve. We allow God to use grief, and that takes